Hello, hello. This is such an honor to be here with you today at .NET Conf, Focus on Maui. My name is Alyssa Nicoll, and I'm going to be talking to you about upgrading your JavaScript apps with .NET MAUI. So buckle in, it's going to be fun. A little bit about me. I did start out in psychology and moved my way on over to web development and design. I am an Angular GDE, and I'm learning .NET right now and having such a just really good time doing it. So I did get started, as I mentioned, as an Angular GDE, and I still love the Angular and JavaScript community, and it's been a really interesting place to learn .NET from. And as a DevRel at Progress, I met a bunch of interesting people doing .NET development, and they started sharing the things they were doing, and I was just like, I need to try this. I want to do .NET. Like it was really, really cool. So I started a channel, which I'll share with you at the very end, called JavaScript Girl in the .NET world on Code It Live, and I've just been learning more and more and come across some really cool things, like shipping a JavaScript app with a Maui Blazor hybrid app. So it's been really fun. This is the tour of ponies. I will use it as an example throughout this. It's kind of my go-to demo application that I've been working on for a while. And when I first heard about Maui, I was like, wait, so my ponies can be shipped to every device, right? I was really, really excited about that. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the steps, and we're actually going to create an Angular app. We're going to create a Maui app. We're going to wrap it, and we're going to run it. And I'm going to show you essentially what it would look like to deploy it and get it live. So I'm going to go ahead and start by making an Angular project. And of course, this could be any JavaScript project. And once we spin up one of those, I'm going to create a Maui Blazor hybrid app, and that will be our wrapper app to wrap our JavaScript project in. And I'll show how to go ahead and deploy and what it looks like, and we can talk a little bit about the process of both the App Store and the Play Store, and really at the end kind of wrap with other options outside of using the Maui Blazor hybrid app to upgrade your JavaScript app, and should you or shouldn't you? So let's dive in. I'm going to make a dir called, we're going to call this Maui Blazor, and we will cd into that. And I'm going to start by creating the Angular app or the JavaScript app that I talked about. So ng new, and we'll call this our web app. I'm feeling all caps today, so I don't know why. There's only lots of caps. We don't need the routing, and CSS is just fine. That's just the CLI asking us a couple of questions to spin up this new app. While that is initializing, I'm going to go ahead and open up Visual Studio Preview so that we can start our Maui Blazor app. And I am using Preview right now. I don't know when Maui will be supported in just normal Visual Studio, but it's always a safe bet to use Preview. So we're using Preview, opening that up. And when I go to create a new project here, underneath, I will show you the process. On the left-hand side, there is a multi-platform option. And underneath that, you're going to see the option of .NET MAUI Blazor, and of course with C#. So I'm going to continue forward with that. And I'm just going to name this wrapper app because this is our Maui Blazor wrapper app that's going to wrap our JavaScript app. Instead of projects, though, I'm going to go and put it in the new Maui Blazor folder that I just made. So we'll go into development and find that folder. And that way they're side by side, and we can kind of look them over and see what we're doing in Finder. I am using a Mac, of course. I think it is the harder of the two, like Mac versus PC. I see you, Linux. I have no comment on that subject, but I think it's the harder of those two options, and I think PC is very well documented. So I think I'm only benefiting those of you who are trying to do something like this in a Mac world. So yes, Visual Studio Preview is now popping up with our newly generated Maui Blazor app. And you can still see, I will scooch our terminal over a little bit so we can see it when it finishes. It's still spinning up and creating our Angular app. And if we go here, I'm going to just show you what this looks like. I will leave debug for my Mac on. That's fine. We can look at it as a desktop app, but I'm going to go ahead and press play and run that. And then I will walk you through a couple of the pieces of this application. But it's a really fun mix of Maui and Blazor. I really like it. And then this one, once this Angular app finishes spinning up, and I do apologize, my Mac is a little old. She's on the older side, so so she needs a minute. Usually Angular apps will spin up really quickly. So I apologize. Successfully initialized. Excellent. I'm going to open this one in VS Code. That's usually how I do all of my web app development. And I have quite a few people in the web app world who choose VS Code as their IDE of choice. But you'll see here we have those two projects that I was talking about. We've got our web app, which is the Angular app, and then our wrapper app, which is the Maui Blazor app. So if I open up our web app and just show you, we've got a bunch of the basics, things like a package JSON and a tsconfig file. If we open up source though, you will see the meat of the project inside of let me make this a little bit bigger, give us a little bit more room. Inside of app, we've got the main HTML file. If I can make this bigger, there we go. And these things should look a little familiar to you if you've used Blazor before, because Razor pages, just like HTML, it's just a markup language, right? So here we've got some inline styles. We've got divs, which are wrapping images and spans and anchors and SVG inline, all that good stuff. So it should look pretty familiar. If we go back over to our Maui Blazor app, we've got an index razor, kind of the same thing. You've got an H1 and then a survey prompt component that will point to a survey prompt. And as you can see, because it's a hybrid, you do have some XAML pages as well with code behind files. And this main page.xaml is actually where the meat of our combination, our shipping or upgrading your JavaScript app is going to happen. And it's all thanks to this amazing thing right here called the Blazor WebView. Absolutely beautiful. It's essentially, you can think of it as its like own little browser. And instead of hosting the root component or of the Blazor app, we're going to host the index file of our JavaScript app. And here you can see this is my Visual Studio preview opening up. When I pressed play, it needed a minute, so we gave it some time. And this is what the default Maui Blazor hybrid app looks like. I wanted you to see this beforehand so you would know once we had completed our transformation, what was happening. So as with, I think, all Blazor apps by default, you have home, a counter, fetch data, and some functionality here of it doing things. And you can see down here in the output, it's running, it's living, it's breathing. So we're going to go ahead and close that because I don't need that running right now. And we are going to go run. If I go back to my terminal, I'm going to say ngserve, and I'm inside of my, I'm not, sorry. I am not inside. I need to go and cd into our web app and then say ngserve. Now it should run at localhost 4200. It's very standard for Angular apps. Sure, we can share analytics data. That's fine with me. And I'm going to make this a little bit longer for reading purposes. So once she is serving and running, we'll make a couple adjustments to the Angular app just so that we feel that it's ours. It's our JavaScript app. We made this. One of those can be, let's see. It is still running. So I'm actually going to, before I modify it, I want to show you it localhost. And as soon as that pops up, perfect, compiled successfully, we can go to it in localhost 4200. So similar to the Maui Blazor initialized app, here's the Angular initialized app, and you have things like additional resources to help you get going, and of course you've got the Twitter, the YouTube, etc. up in the nav. What we want to do is we're going to go to the app component, and we're just going to kind of blow this file away, and we're just going to start writing things here, and we will say Maui Blazor hybrid app of wonder. And then we're going to make an H2, says this is Angular. And let's go ahead and let's grab the, I've got some inspiration, our .NET bot. .NET bot. We're going to grab an image of the .NET bot. Let's see. That one. He's so cute. So I'm going to copy the link address and just see if we can go ahead and get him showing up. Our beautiful .NET bot. All right, let's see. Did I close everything properly? Let's find out. I think I'm still serving it. So that means I can go to my browser and we should be able to see things, or at least most things that aren't broken beyond all repair. All right, let's click on this image. You look lively. Ooh, transparent background means you're onto something fancy. So that is the image background. He seems a bit cropped and wonky, but if we can get him showing up, I will not complain. So let's go ahead and throw him in here into our source. And we go back over to our Chrome and see. Beautiful. He is running. He's a little blurry. So what we're going to do is we will say in our app component CSS, we can call out that image and we can say max width, and I'm going to say 50 view width, like half of the view width is how big I want you, which is what it did, which is perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and select everything as well inside. With Angular, you have a selector called host because of view encapsulation. And so we can essentially talk to our app component with this host selector, the top layer of our app component. And I just want to like center everything, which maybe that sounds crazy, but let's just do it. Let's find out what happens. So display flex, and I want to align items center, and I also want to do text align center, and let's see if that looks how I want it to look. We'll find out. Back over to you. I think I always get confused between align items and justify. So let's try actually, it is row by default. So we need to say flex direction column. I still want it to be a column. Yay, it's looking better. Okay, so if we like make our screen bigger, .NET Bot gets bigger because our view width is expanding. And same when we get smaller. I'm pretty happy with this. Let's ship it. And so with Angular, I'm going to stop running it locally, and I'm going to do a build command, and that you need to do the flag of -- configuration. And we're going to build for production. And with Angular apps, what it does is it's going to take all of your Angular files and all your CSS files and everything in between and build it and put it into a dist folder, distribution folder, DIST. And so once this build is done, I'm going to show you in our VS Code where I have both of our applications open. I will show you collapse source. Let's see, boop, boop, boop. We should have a dist folder appear magically with all of our built assets and HTML file, and it should all be complete and ready to ship to production. Once we have that, we are going to go back over to our Maui Blazor hybrid app, and this is the fun part. Instead of a Blazor WebView with like that root component, we don't want to point towards the Blazor app, and a little bit more, I'm going to dismiss. It's probably just because I'm running so many things at once. I do apologize. She's beach balling on me, but we're essentially going to remove any pointers to the Blazor app because we don't need it. And we are still going to utilize this host page of www.root.index.html because let me show you, now we have the dist folder. If I plop that open, you'll see we do have a generated index.html, which is beautiful, and it's exactly what we needed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take everything in our dist folder and we're going to drag it down to our wrapper app. I'm going to hover over that, and inside our www root folder, I'm just going to drop all of it. And it's asking right now, it's going to ask about two different things. It says, do I want to replace the favicon? I do. And then, just one thing, I guess. Cool. Awesome. Sometimes it asks me, do you want to also replace this file? And I'm like, yes, just replace all the files. So now we have our new index.html file. And this is, as you can see in the title, our web app. That's the Angular app. It's built index.html file, along with all of its other assets that it's pointing to. And we have modified our main page.xaml, and I'm going to go ahead and save those modifications to essentially just point to the index page that it was pointing at and not tell it anything about Blazor components, because we don't need that. We are using this MAUI Blazor hybrid app to wrap our JavaScript apps and, ship them to every platform. So let's press play now, and we should see a desktop application that looks like our Angular application did in the browser with our .NET bot and our H1 and our H2. Awesome. Now there it is. There's our Angular web app wrapped in our MAUI Blazor hybrid app. And it is running on a Mac desktop application. And it's right there and it's beautiful. And you see our styles are working, our little host selector for Angular is working, and it's aligning all of those things for the app component, looking exactly how we thought it would and should. Next fun bit. So debugging Mac items like an iPhone or like a desktop app on a Mac, pretty standard, pretty basic. Something fun though is Android. So if we go to this drop down, right now I occasionally get an unsupported device of this Android is an unsupported device. So a way that I found around that, if I open up the ADM, the Android Device Manager on my Mac, and of course, if you're on a PC, this flow is going to look a little bit different for you, and you might not even have this issue. So yay! I'm going to go ahead and start this emulator for the Android, the Pixel 2 Pi. And so that's going to go ahead and pop up, and what it's running right now is an old app that I built. But we have the emulator running now. So if I go back here, and let me move our device manager a little bit. And if I go to my terminal, and I am going to open up my MAUI Blazor app, because there's always a command line or command prompt way around the IDE. Like if the IDE doesn't have the tool or feature, right, there should be a way around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to build, and we don't want our web app, we want our MAUI app. So let's go back into our wrapper app, and we are going to build this for Android. So .NET build, and then I should have it as one of my latest things. And so this command, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you. Bigger, please. I'm saying .NET build -t run -f, and then I'm saying net 6.0 -android. And I already have that emulator running. So when I start this project, it should take over the emulator, and we should see our Angular web app running on Android on our Mac, which is like amazing, mind-blowing. I'm pointing to wrapper app /proj. I think I actually had, and I don't know if it matters, I think I had it named all caps. Yeah, it does not exist. So I'm just going to try to run it without pointing to the proj file. And yes, occasionally, this is why I was specifying that. It says specify a project or a solution file. So let's go ahead and list out, I'm going to go into wrapper app, list out, yes, wrapper app /proj. So I was not, in fact, in the proper directory. That is my bad. Now that I'm one level down, actually in the wrapper app directory with the proj file, I'm going to build this for Android. Drum roll. And hopefully we see it take over our little Android emulator here. So we did get an error, and occasionally this happens, and saying that no device is found. So I restarted Visual Studio and I checked for updates, and I did actually have like 5 different updates to install. I installed those, and now in the dropdown, as you can see, Pixel 2 Pi is one of the options, which is awesome. But when I tried to run it, I'm getting the project wrapper app requires Android SDK components that are not currently installed. So I'm like, cool, let's go ahead and install those. Yes, download Android dependencies automatically. That sounds awesome. Except, so this is kind of a new walkthrough that I don't remember being there last time. So new things get added every day to the tooling. So if you run into errors and like you can't do something that you saw me do or that you see someone else do in a tutorial, oftentimes it just means there's been an update and you can go and download those and you should be on a happy path again. So now that we're getting the Android SDK changes applied successfully, and you might not be able to read that, it's super tiny font at the bottom of my Visual Studio Preview IDE. I'm going to press play on the Pixel 2 Pi, see if we can get it to build, accept the terms, and let's find out. Awesome. So I actually quit a few things to give a little bit more processing power to my poor little MacBook, and it popped up. The build succeeded. I did it through the terminal, not through Visual Studio Preview, but it did take over that emulator, and now you see our little Angular app that's being wrapped in a Maui Blazor application, and it is being shipped to an Android emulator on my Mac, which is just like 10 levels of awesome. I'm so excited about this. And let me go, let's see if we can even show off the rotation. And you can see the bot, he resizes a little bit based on our bigger width. And I'm in love. I'm in love with this. It takes it a little bit of a second. I think that's my computer slowness to realize that it's been rotated. But once it does, it adjusts itself, he resizes. And then if we look here, on all of the emulators and simulators that are offered to you, whether it's through the Android Device Manager, or whether it's like if you're on a PC and it's a Windows simulator, or whether you're on the Mac and you're using like an iPhone simulator, they all have options for screenshots. And that's a really, really good segue. You can see it takes the screenshot of exactly what it is on the screen on the device at the time to deployment. Because if we go over to my slide deck, the steps for deploying, if you've ever done this on the web, is very, very simple. You start walking through and you'll see, open the provider of your choice. I use Netlify. I know there are quite a few options nowadays. And it's really just as simple as pointing whatever your host is going to be, in this case Netlify, to your GitHub repo. And then literally, voila, it is live. Those are QR codes that'll take you to the live version of this Pony demo site that I deployed with this. But to deploy it everywhere else, so Maui on Mac is like, as I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit more complicated. So I wanted to walk through a couple of the steps. The first is to install .NET, and the second is to install the workloads. .NET, you simply go to the website docs.microsoft.com and choose, like, of course, for us, I did Mac OS, but you choose where you're downloading it to and download .NET Core. That's step one. Next, you need to download the workloads. And I, of course, being a terminal girl, I just did the command of .NET workload install Maui. That was how I did it. I'm sure there's a button somewhere online that you can press if you want to avoid the terminal completely. But these are the steps that we walked through earlier of creating that .NET Maui Blazor app, deleting the Blazor component bits, inserting our JavaScript app that we built into the www root folder, and then build and run, right? And you can run it on different devices. And now we want to talk about the actual deploy step, but screenshot this. This is definitely the major steps of getting to that point where you're ready to deploy. I did get an Apple developer ID, went to the App Store, and highly recommend King Gerald. That is my nickname for him. He is an incredible walkthrough on both if you want to go to the App Store or the Play Store, and kind of talks about some of the deeper nitty-gritty details that can be easy to get hung up or lost, honestly. So highly recommend his guide, but here's a higher level overview of what I experienced when trying to deploy to the App Store. And so I went to developer.apple.com, and you're also going to need an app called Transporter. We'll get to both of those in a second, but developer.apple.com is essentially where you put all of your certificates, identifiers, and things like that. Gerald walks you through it step by step, so don't hyperventilate if you're feeling a little overwhelmed. And when you build your app, it's going to give you an IPA file. And you use that IPA file to upload to Transporter, and Transporter connects that to all of that information that you just input about your application in developer.apple.com. Why do you have to do it in Transporter? I have no idea, but I know you have to do it in Transporter. And next, there is yet a third location thing that you have to utilize, and that is appstoreconnect.apple.com. This is where you're going to put in some more info, things like that I had hiccups with, privacy policy, screenshots that we were just talking about that you can 100% use from the simulators and the emulators that the Visual Studio Preview gives you whenever you start up those, or Android Device Manager. But those are 100% valid. Use of screenshots, you can upload those. Privacy policy it was a hiccup for me because in any of these applications that I've been doing, we're not collecting user data. And so I didn't realize that you would need a privacy policy no matter what. It doesn't matter. It's required in both the App Store and the Play Store. And so I actually found a privacy policy generator, and it's free if you're not gathering data. But as your privacy policy gets more complicated, they start to charge for generating that privacy policy and also hosting it, because both the App Store Connect and the Play Store, they want a URL to your privacy policy, not like upload a PDF or something. They want the actual URL of where it's hosted. And my first rejection, yes. So the reason my Tour of Ponies application is not up right now is because I was rejected on a couple points. I adjusted the other points, but the main hang up right now is that I apparently don't have rights to My Little Pony. So I've reached out to Hasbro to see if I can, everything else cleared. All the other information that I was able to gather through this process to ship to the App Store. The Android deployment was a little bit different, a little bit easier, I would say, but not by much. It still asks, especially when you're looking at it from a web developer angle, and I just point to my GitHub repo and provide a build command and I'm off. It was a little bit more than that. And it shocked me on both of these flows, just getting used to deploying to other places. So developer.android.com/studio/publish is the site that you're going to, and this is a checklist of my Tour of Ponies, my 9 out of 10 that I was completing. And it walks you through step by step each of those pieces of info. But it was very, very similar to the App Store in wanting screenshots, wanting a privacy policy, wanting certain bits of information about your application. But yes, so other options, yes. So many times it has been brought to my attention that there are other options outside of a MAUI Blazor hybrid app to deploy your JavaScript app everywhere. And I realize that. I know those other options exist. For example, PWAs, right? But PWAs have their own downside, as does Electron, as does really any other option. And you have to weigh those pros and cons. I'm not saying this is the end all be all, but I will say, as a web developer who's primarily comfortable in Angular, this was not difficult to do. And if I had pony rights, it'd be up live right now. So highly recommend this route. Native apps, there's lots of reasons why they're better than a PWA. They are more stable and have a better reputation if you're shipping to a store versus, download this PWA shortcut kind of thing on your phone. There's also features that a smartphone has that you can utilize that MAUI or Blazor itself will have an API to access that you don't necessarily have on the JavaScript side. There is some interop needed to obviously let your JavaScript know about these things over here, right? Making those APIs meet. But this is a really, really good reason to not use the PWA because, push notifications, camera access, geofencing, the list goes on. There's lots of really cool features that you can utilize if you go native. So these are, just screenshot this if you're going to do it the terminal route on your Mac. Highly recommend for creating, building, running, and publishing. These were the commands that I used. And that publish command, of course, is how you get the IPA or the final product for whichever store you're shipping to. Thank you so much. Hit me up on Twitter at Alyssa Nicoll. My DM is always open. Send your questions live right now to #.netconf. I appreciate you all so much. And of course, I really wanted to mention that we have a really cool library of .NET MAUI controls that we offer. You jump down here, you can see some of the controls, and if you click into those, you can see the features they offer. And every release, we add more to them, so check it out. And I wanted to go ahead and mention, find me on Fridays on Angular Air on YouTube for some more Angular fun. And on Tuesdays on my Code It Live channel, you can come and hang out. Every Tuesday, I do a JavaScript Girl and a .NET World episode, and it's a ton of fun. Just me learning more and more .NET, and you watching along live. So come hang out. It'll be a good time. Thank you all.